Do you want to sleep better, look better, feel better, perform better, and live longer? There's one thing that you can do that's free, cheap, and easy to access that's going to allow you to do all of those. Today, I'm going to turn 30 hours of listening to two of the world's most famous health researchers into this 10-minute video. My name's Andrew Marsham. I'm the founder of the High Performance Health Program, and we have helped coach over 1,200 executives in the last 6 years through our programs. Let's get into my top 10 tips from listening to 30 hours of Dr. Andrew Huberman and Dr. Matthew Walker. And you want to stick around for the bonus tip at the end. That is probably the most important one. Have you ever wondered what the most important part of your health is? Well, I would actually argue that it's sleep. And I have never been more certain of it since consuming this podcast series. From shorter lifespan to worse health span to higher risk of disease to less cognitive function and creativity, sleep truly is the bedrock of physical health. We need to treat it accordingly. Number 2, this is something that may resonate with you. Have you ever been that type of person who just sits up to 2-3 a.m. and really struggles to sleep? Maybe you wake up at 6 a.m. and you still feel exceptionally groggy and tired. This could be down to what is called your chronotype. And there are 5 chronotypes to think about here. There is extreme morning, regular, evening, and extreme evening. In the first example, the extreme morning, this equates to you feeling ready to go to bed at around 8:30 to 9 p.m. and waking up at 4:30 a.m. This is the classic morning person, but of course they're extreme. On the opposite end of the spectrum, this equates to you going to bed around 2 to 3 a.m. and waking up mid-morning at around 10 or 11 a.m. And these are hardwired. Some people are hardwired to deal with going to bed later. Some people are hardwired to deal with going to bed earlier.
I'm an early bird and I'm a night owl, so I'm wise and I have worms.
Figuring out which chronotype you are and then aligning your sleep and wake cycles with that can make a huge difference to how you feel, how you perform, and your quality of sleep. Now, of course, society favors the early type and the extreme early type. We have to get up, go to work, go to school. So unfortunately, if you're an extreme evening type, society is just rigged against you in that one, I'm afraid.
We are desperately biased towards the morning types, and we chastise and stigmatize evening types as being slothful or lazy, that they just can't get it together.
The takeaway from that is try and line it up as much as possible to figure out what your natural chronotype is. Number 3, have you ever wondered what actually makes up sleep? Like, how can you have 8 hours of good sleep and still wake up not feeling great? How can you sometimes have 6 hours of sleep and wake up feeling okay? Well, Matthew talks about the sleep macronutrients. Now, you may be familiar with the macronutrients, or the macros for short, of nutrition: protein, carbohydrates, and fats. In sleep, these are quantity, quality, regularity, and timing. And to break down the targets here, quantity, we're aiming for 7 to 9 hours per night. Quality, this means that you're spending over 85% of your time in bed asleep. Regularity is going to be how consistent you are with your sleep and wake times, and this is incredibly important, getting a consistent routine even through the weekends. And timing is speaking to what I discussed previously, which is your chronotype, and aligning your sleep-wake cycle up with that. Your goal to get your sleep right is to line all of those up. Number 4, this is probably one of the easiest to influence parts of improving your quality and your depth of sleep, and it's overlooked in most cases. The phrase goes something like this: heat up to cool down, stay cool to stay asleep, warm up to wake up. Temperature plays a huge role in the quality and the depth of our sleep. In order for us to fall asleep, our core body temperature has to fall by around 1 degree Celsius or 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit. And in order to do that, you need to actually heat up first. So taking a hot bath, taking a hot shower, going in a sauna, these raise the external body temperature, so the temperature on your skin, which actually allows you to dump heat, and then your core body temperature falls. We want a very cool room, actually cooler than most people would think. Around 18 degrees Celsius or 65 to 66 degrees Fahrenheit in order to maximize the quality and depth of your sleep. Again, air conditioning is a great tool here if you live in a warmer climate. If you live in somewhere like the UK and there's no air conditioning, in the summertime time, I highly advise getting a fan into the room to really help get some of that cold air moving. And then in order to wake up, your body will naturally rise in temperature. We don't need to worry too much about manipulating that, although things like the 8 Sleep Pod are pretty popular and can manipulate your temperatures. I have no affiliation, but I have heard very good reviews about them. Number 5, this is where so many people go wrong. You walk up the stairs, you hop into bed, and you then stare at the ceiling for the next 60 minutes. Most people think that falling asleep is like turning off a light switch. Well, Matthew described it more as a landing a plane. It is very difficult just to hop into bed and completely switch off, especially if you have been stimulated or active or busy beforehand. Having a proper wind down in place is a superpower. I can really speak to this. I believe it's more important than any morning routine. There's a couple of things to think through here. Number 1 is dim the lights a couple of hours before you go to bed. So if you have overhead lighting like I have in this room, you turn it off. You focus more on table lighting or low level lighting. Really start to dim your environment a couple of hours before bed. The wind down itself should really then start about 60 minutes before bed. And that's where you start to cut out anything that's stimulating. Checking email, checking and scrolling social media, watching TV to an extent, although I do find personally that can be relaxing as long as it's not work related. Stretching, reading, anything like that can really help you relax is probably going to be your optimal solution there. And the final point on that is your bed should only be for sleeping in 6. That's it. You should go to bed when you are tired, not just because it's time to go to bed. Think about when you're a child, you crawl into bed to fall asleep and you wake up in the morning. Try and recreate that again in adulthood. Number 6, this is again for people who really struggle to get to sleep especially. Maybe you hop up the stairs, you feel like it's time to go to bed, or you fell asleep on the couch and you go upstairs and then you just cannot seem to get or stay asleep. Associations are very, very powerful. Learn to associate your bed with sleepiness and not wakefulness. So that means no going to bed and scrolling through social media, no going to bed and watching a TV, no going to bed and opening the laptop. Go to bed to sleep or have sex and go when you are tired. That's it. Number 7, this one actually may surprise you and really goes against the grain. I actually fell into the camp of this not so long ago when I was flying home from Dubai to the UK. I only got 4 hours of sleep. So normally my thought process there is, well, maybe I should have more caffeine, or I should go and have a nap, or I should go to bed early that night. Matthew's advice is do nothing. Just get back into routine. If you have a terrible night's sleep, do not try and overcompensate with caffeine and with naps. You then just essentially cascade the problem. Go through your normal day, stay awake until your normal bedtime, and you should fall back into a routine because you should be incredibly tired if you had a poor night's sleep the night before. Number 8, this is probably one of the most shocking statistics I have ever heard when it comes to health. And it's an experiment that's performed on 1.5 billion people twice per year. It's called daylight savings. In the spring, when we lose an hour of sleep, there's a 24% increase in hospitalizations from cardiac arrest the next day. The reverse is true when we gain an hour in the fall. There's also an increase in car accidents, accidental deaths and injury, and a whole host of other public health issues. Just 1 hour of sleep can either drastically improve the problem or drastically impact your health in a negative way. So try and get that extra hour of sleep more often. Number 9, this is one so many people get wrong. Have you ever had a nightcap, or maybe you smoke cannabis to try and fall asleep because it helps you wind down? It helps you fall asleep and it helps knock you out. Well, that's literally all it's doing. They are a sedative, not a sleep aid. Both alcohol and cannabis actually have really detrimental effects to sleep and the quality of your sleep, especially when it comes to REM. That sleep starts to get blocked, it can cause health problems and issues, and that's why you can wake up tired after a night of drinking. You don't actually get the depth of sleep that you really need to recover and perform the next day. So these things can be a crutch to help you fall asleep, but they're actually masking a much deeper problem. Avoid them if you can at all costs. Unfortunately, there are no safe limits on these drugs. Any consumption seems to be detrimental, so just try and be smart about it and try not to make it too much of a daily habit.
No.
Number 10, this is probably the most important takeaway from everything, and this is my bonus tip. Dr. Matthew Walker, leading world sleep expert, was asked, what is the one thing that you would recommend to everyone that's going to get you the best return. And he said going to bed and waking up at the same time every single day, plus or minus 30 minutes. That means on weekends, that means having a routine, and you will see the effects of this. I have seen this in my own life so many times. The more consistent with my routine I am, the better I feel, the better I perform, and ultimately, the more I get out of life. Now, if you found these tips helpful, we don't want to stop at just sleep. Get your nutrition and training right in this next video, and this is how I got abs in 8 weeks. So pair the sleep strategies here with the training nutrition strategies there, and you'll be in incredible shape and moving forward to a long, healthy life.